Today we're going to be talking about duck calling strategies for mallard ducks. Like we said last week, it may not be the best way, it may not be the only way, but it sure works for us. Before we get into anything more complex with talking about duck calling, let's just talk about 4 basic calls that every caller should strive to be able to do. The first, this is just the feeding chuckle. The feeding chuckle is all about the articulation of your tongue. To do this, you're either saying something like ticka 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 or dooga 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 to create that bouncing sound and pulsation through the duck call. You can hear when I started slow, just really pronouncing the syllables. Ticka 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 ticka. And then when I pick it up, it meshes together and dooga 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 ticka 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 ticka. Obviously using that your hand to propel the sound in different directions. The second call we're going to talk about today is just the very basic quack. For the quack, you're just really thinking about a nice, throaty, simple sound. For this, there's many different syllables you can say. I prefer to use just hoot, the word hoot. And I'm just thinking of really making it start in my throat and just opening it up as my air comes forward. Hoot, hoot, hoot. The third type of call we're discussing today is the hail call or comeback call. This is to draw attention to your spread from ducks who are far away and you're trying to get to change their flight path, or from birds that maybe have been working and they seem to have lost interest and are trying to leave your spread and you want to get their attention back on you. Alright? This is, I think of this call as a duck laugh. It starts high and it's a string of notes starting high and just bouncing all the way down. You can hear how it's just many choppy notes, and for this, I don't even use a syllable. It comes from my throat, I push the tongue up to the roof of my mouth, and then I'm literally just thinking laugh, like and you'll be able to feel it. It's hard to explain through words, but use the speed of your air to control the pitch of your sound. And I'll just show you on this other call what it sounds like as well. The first 3 types of calls we've done today have all come from the hen mallard. Up next, we're doing the 4th and final call we're going to talk about on this video, and it is the drake whistle. So it obviously comes from the male duck, and the male mallard specifically. And in my opinion, this is a very underutilized sound and calling technique. So just take a listen and hear what it sounds like. Alright, in order to blow this drake whistle properly, it is super easy, and just about anybody could do it with only a few minutes of practice before a hunt. So, on the whistle that I'm using, take this skinny part and you place it right between your teeth. From then, all it is you're humming, almost like a harmonica when you were a kid. So just start, and as your finger goes, your finger will go and you can feel the pitch go up. Now that we've briefly discussed the 4 different types of calls that we've done in this video, I'm just going to go through and do a quick recap and do them for you just so you can hear them in your ear one more time before we move on. So the first call we talked about was the feeding chuckle. And remember, it's that ticka 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 or ticka 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 with the tongue in the front and back of your mouth. type of calling approach we talked about is just the traditional quack. And remember, I said for this, I'm using this word hoot, hoot, hoot. And it's just that easy, just that one syllable, hoot. The third type of call that we discussed today is the hail/comeback call. Remember, think about this as a duck laughing in your face. Think about wanting to get the attention from far away or to draw the attention back to your decoy spread. All you're doing is putting the tongue against the roof of your mouth and hissing as you're blowing air out, starting high and chuckling until you get low. And the fourth type of call we talked about today was the drake whistle. Remember, you're putting the small end between your teeth, you're putting your finger into the hole in the front, and you're just making a humming noise like you would on a harmonica from your throat, from a low pitch to a high pitch. Alright, when hunting, it is obviously all about strategy. And the first huge aspect to think about is, are we hunting in the early season? Or is it pushing the end of December and beginning of January when the birds are way smarter and have been shot at multiple times throughout the year? In early season, we got to remember that the birds in general are going to be much more receptive to our calling, and they will decoy much better. If we're talking about late season, when the birds have seen lots of decoys, they've heard lots of hunters calling, and let's face it, they've more than likely been shot at least once, then we need to back off and not call as much. We need to be receptive to the birds and just kind of match what they are giving and only do what we are comfortable with. Today, we're just going to talk about somewhere right in the middle and talk about a overall quality hunting strategy that should work from early season all the way through until the end. Alright, for this strategy related video, we're just going to start early morning and work our way through the hunt, because to me, my strategy changes as to what time of day it is, as well as other factors we'll get into later. So let's talk about first thing, like 5 minutes before shooting light, all the way until 30 minutes after shooting light. At this point in time, a lot of the properties we hunt, we know that the ducks have been coming in there through scouting, through just hunting those properties for years and years and years, or through just knowing how it's been that particular season. So early morning, we're not calling it all, or we may throw out a few of our drake whistles here and there. Nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. Let the birds work on their own. At that point, it is still dark enough. It may be light to shoot, but it is still dark enough that birds are not going to be able to spot your decoys from miles and miles away. Alright? Let them work. Just see how they're going to go to that property for that given day, and just save your calling for later. Alright, so we've made it through the very early morning. Maybe we've done great and already have a bunch of birds in the blind. Maybe not. So now we adjust. Let's skip forward, and now it is light enough that we can see color. So when the ducks are coming in, we can now tell if they're drakes or hens, and we can tell what species of duck they are by the colors on their wings or bodies, and the hunt's really getting going now. Okay? Our calling is changing at this point. It's still early, we still need to let the birds work, but we can grab these and we can blow and interact with the birds some. So at this point in the hunt, we're going to switch to doing adding feeding chuckles in, as well as the hail calls. So when the birds are in the distance, that's when I'm going to go ahead and start really relying on my hail call. They're far enough away, I just want to say, hey look, there's some action going on over here, come check it out. I want to grab the duck's attention and get them to turn their heads and at least acknowledge that our decoys are there and to see if they may be interested in hopping over there to join too. Alright, when they get closer, this is when I'm going to really rely on my feeding chuckles. So when they're close, I'm not going to be super loud. I just want to make it seem like the ducks are moving and like there's a bunch of activity going on. I want to seem warm, inviting, and active. I want it to seem like an active, motion-based decoy spread. This is not a decoy video, but this is the point of the morning where I rely heavily on my spinning wing decoys to add motion and just bring life to my spread. Alright, we have made it to the mid-morning portion of our hunt. Now, when hunting ducks, they're typically going to kind of pond hop or just mingle around in the early morning. Then we have to imagine that they're going to go to feed at the end of the early morning segment throughout the mid-morning, and then they will be coming back to ponds throughout the late morning to afternoon period of your hunt, depending on how long you stay. So in this mid-morning approach, we're just going to picture that we're probably going to have fewer ducks, and the ones we have are going to be singles, doubles, or groups of like 3 to 4 birds at a time. Going to be nothing overbearing. So don't do too much. Again, do not overblow. At this point, just let your decoys do the work. Alright? If there's good wind, they're going to look real, and they're going to be moving and look active. So just let them work. At this point in the hunt, I rely more on quacks, and then I revert back to that drake whistle. You don't need anything too overbearing, just enough to add some sound into the void of silence and to just make your decoys come to life even that much more. So once again, at the mid-morning portion of your hunt, rely on those quacks and go back to the drake whistle. Alright, so now let's talk about the end of your hunt, the late morning to early afternoon period of time. Now, we talked about earlier that the birds are feeding kind of during that middle morning section, so we have to imagine that they're coming back or moving back to water during that late morning to early afternoon stage, obviously depending on the time of year and the weather conditions at hand. So at this point, if you're hunting a field, you may already be done by late morning because your activity is just gone. If you're hunting a pond, your lull may be over and the birds may really be starting to pick up again, giving you a chance to really add to that pile that you're working on. So at this point, we have to assume that there's going to be an increase of bird activity in the skies and that the flight lines are really going to be picking up. So here, within reason obviously, it's time to gravitate back towards that hail call, as well as mixing in the other 3 calls too. You have to remember, some of these birds coming back may already have seen your decoys this morning, or they may be smart. So don't overblow. Like I keep saying, do not overblow, but mix it up and use all the tools that you have. If you have multiple guys, you can have multiple people calling at once, doing different styles, just to make your decoys seem active, inviting, and safe place for the ducks. So like I said, really gravitate towards that hail call just to get the attention of birds in the distance who may be flying back to different roosts or day roosts or just floating spots for that period of time. Use the quack, the feeding chuckle, as well as the drake whistle to finish birds when they get them in close. As I always say, there is no way that I would even claim or try to convince you that I am a professional or a perfectionist caller in any way, shape, or form. I've been calling for a few years now, and I have gotten a lot better, but there's still things I have to work on each and every year and on a day-to-day basis. Calling is not easy, and it's something that takes consistent and quality practice to improve on. So if you would, drop a comment down below. Did you like a tip that I gave or part of my strategy? Or do you have another tip for me to improve on my calling, or for somebody else who may be watching this video, so that just another method that they could use to get better themselves? Like always, this may not be the only way, it may not be the best way, heck, it may not even be the right way, but these calling tips and strategies, they work for us, and I think they can work for you too. So Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week with a comparison video on 2 of my very favorite duck calls. See you next time.